Business leaders are the new rock stars. The movie industry has fallen to bits. It's all streaming TV. The music industry, if you're not Taylor Swift, then you're just doing stuff for kids. Most people listen to the retro stuff they like from years ago. The biggest rock star on the planet is Elon Musk.
When did Dave/Max find out that you had this superpower? You went into lockdown and you reinvented yourself.
If you're older and you're realizing that your job is not safe, or you're in an industry that AI is going to take away a large amount of what you did and you might not be relevant anymore, then you're going to have to reinvent. The biggest challenge of education is it doesn't fit into what we need nowadays. The education system that we enjoy is like 200 years old. It was developed to get people out of the fields into factories. 40% of the jobs that you can do on the market, there's no degree for it. So why would you do a degree for that?
Hi Dave! Good
Simon, how are you, Pepper? Excellent. Wonderful to see you. You're looking great, by the way. Love the jacket.
You're looking great. You're looking black orange style. So, how are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. I can't complain about a single thing, but I'm sure that things will come along that change my view on it. But what I learned is don't chase happiness, just chase being content. And that way you're always at a plateau. At the very worst, you're okay. And at the very best, you can be happy, but you never go below that.
Okay, when we were here, I saw on your phone a little gratitude message. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, here's the thing. Your day can upset you. And people can upset you. And things from outside of you can upset you. But ultimately, what happens is if you want to find success in life, 80% of it is internal. And 20% is the actions that you take. So you really have to manage your ecosystem internally by making sure that everything is steady and focused and happy and content. Otherwise you go up and down and you have days off and things can really hijack your happiness. So on my phone, every hour, it rings the alarm, just a simple ping, and that then gives me a message of gratitude about my life, my family, my direction, about the universe being my friend and sending things to me. So I'm always thinking of abundance. I'm never letting things make me feel bad, because what happens is you're like a magnet. What happens is actually you recognize certain things in your life. So there's a thing that allows you to see things around you, and the more you see things, the more you're interested in, the more examples it will give you. So therefore, if you're thinking, oh, the world's terrible, your brain will find examples of the world being terrible. But if you're thinking the world's great, you'll see more things of that. So what you do is you pump your world full of things that make you feel gratitude, and then you're on a buzz all the time. And so it's much easier to be able to recognize those things. That's why when you've got people around you that are negative, don't hang around with them, because they're going to bring you down, and you'll start noticing negativity everywhere.
And beside of the phone, what else do you do to make yourself inside feel satisfied?
Well, I'm a pretty happy person anyway. And I think one of the things that really hit me about the pandemic years ago is I went from being really busy and traveling around the world and doing big events everywhere and training people to be great speakers to zero work for 2 years because all the events finished and nobody needed to learn to speak. And so I had to start managing what was going on in my world. I didn't realize it was an issue until after the pandemic, after 2 years of going online and doing shows and connecting with people, I realized that what I hadn't done was burn out, I'd burnt in. And what that means is, like, if you're driving a car and your wheels are stuck in the sand and they're spinning, but you're not going anywhere, there's no traction. And so I didn't burn out, but I wasn't going anywhere. So I realized that to avoid depression, anxiety, I had to start managing my own ecosystem. And that means not dealing with toxic people, not beating myself up about things that haven't worked, and walking away from anything, regardless of who it is or what it is, that's not going to make me feel good. So when you go for 2 years of no clients coming in, that means I can survive with the biggest clients in the world, give me a hard time. And I go, you know what? I don't need this. Give it to somebody else. I'll get somebody else instead. And so you leave that gap for you to find good people.
I like that. I love it, actually. So it resonates a lot with me. I mean, it's very hard, but once you go into that mindset, it's so rewarding. So can you tell me an example of a moment where you were like, this is not my tribe, this is not the people I want to surround with, and I'm going to take this step to protect myself and at the same time free myself for the people that I care about and want to work with?
I think it's an ongoing basis. One of the problems about being an entertainer is you've got a yin and yang in the fact that you're very public, but at the same time you need to be very private to recharge your batteries, and your family and friends who really care about you are inside a private world, because otherwise when you go out, you're public property. And so you need to be able to manage what's in and what's out. So what you end up being really extrovert with a microphone in your hands, but really introvert when you're in public and you're not working. So you have to work out which version of you you're happy to get going. I haven't really got a specific time when I dealt with that. I realized over my entire life I've been able to switch on and off, but what I realized is post-pandemic, that wasn't enough. It's not enough to be able to switch on to stage and then switch on to being private. What I needed to do was have an ability above that to go to a new level. So what I did was I tapped into, what am I doing when I'm at my best? Well, I'm at my best when I've got a microphone in my hands, but that only happens when I've got a microphone in my hands. But what if I could tap into that all the time? I could be that version of me. So let me give an example. When I'm hosting a big event or speaking on stage, I'm able to then look at the audience, get the Wi-Fi code of what they need emotionally. I'm able to look at the timing I've got, the sound, the light, the atmosphere, everything that's there. I can look at the sponsors and what they need. I make very quick decisions about every single part of it and calculate it brilliantly to give the end result. But in real life, you don't normally do that. You just go through and things happen and you accommodate it. But what if I handed over that version of me to my normal life? So let me give an example. Post-pandemic, the events industry hadn't come back to what it is right now. So I was getting people calling me up saying, Dave, want to work with you, got an event coming up, and then not getting back to me. So I thought, well, I need the work, I need the business. I don't want to chase them and annoy them and look desperate, but I want a response. So I thought, well, supposing that version of me that holds a microphone, I'll call him Max. Supposing Max was in charge, what would he say to that client? So I tapped into my version of me, and I know it sounds crazy, but you can wear or be who you want to be. And I just asked myself a question, what can I do to make that better? And Max said to me, why don't you just give them 24 hours to get back and put it in the contract? And otherwise the offer's gone. I thought, I can't do that 24 hours. What if they passed it off to other people? I'll make it 48 hours. So I made it 48 hours, and I got 30% of the clients said yes, and the rest of them never came back to me. I thought, wow, that saved a lot of time. So now I use Max everywhere, except with my family. So now you're actually talking to Max, not talking to Dave, because I found that that version of me is really optimized. And whereas a Dave, that's version of me, is really chilled out. But in order to get to where you need to be, you need to upgrade yourself. And it doesn't hurt. It just means you cut through a lot of stuff that's of no use to you. And you are still empathetic and you still care about people. It's just that you also return to knowing who cares about you at the same time. So it was never really a specific time, but now it's an ongoing thing that I use, and it's really effective.
I like to talk more about the pandemic a little bit later, but first I want to continue a little bit on this topic. So when you are in max mode, do you do something different? For example, I feel the same what you're talking about. I dress up nicely, I shave, and then I'm like, okay, now I can be like, on speed mode. If I am in my chill clothes, and even if I need to do something, a call even with somebody, I feel the energy is less, the power is less. Do you do something to create max?
So you're talking about what anchors do you use? For some people, it might be playing a certain song that gets you ready to get in the mood, or putting on a piece of jewelry, or spraying yourself with some aftershave or perfume. For me, no, I don't. The reason I don't do it is because I like to think that the way that I am, I'm pretty happy in my own skin. So the beard, the hair, the hat when I want to wear a hat, that's just me. Some people will like it, some people will hate it, some people will be curious about it, but I like it. So therefore, I'm always ready to be me. I can't hide and be somebody else, so I don't need to switch it on or switch it off. I just find the best version of me, and I stop thinking about what other people think about it, because if they like me, they'll like me. If they don't like me, they'll ignore me, but I won't tolerate anyone disrespecting me. So that means I'm just going to be me. And what I find is it just takes away a load of headaches where you're trying to prove yourself to other people. That's what I said about the 80% of you of your success is about internally managing who you are, and the 20% is taking action as well. So building a brand is not just about your ability to put yourself out there as a version that everybody's going to want. It's more about building a version of you that you feel happy being in your own skin.
Yeah.
And so when you're holding a microphone and working an audience, it's one thing to act as if you're somebody. That's what actors are. But if you are being you all the time, and you're genuine, and sometimes you're funny, sometimes you're not funny, sometimes you're really deep, and sometimes you're just okay, then it means you're not trying, you're just being. And I think that's the key to it. When you can work out who you are, what you do, who you can affect, and you go to work every day and it never feels like work, then you're already optimized and you've won the lottery, because from now until the end of your days, every day is a breeze. Good days and bad days are part of your adventure. Imagine being in the Truman Show.
Yes.
And so you're in a reality TV show, everybody's watching you, which, let's face it, social media is pretty much like that. But instead, you're the one that's actually the director, you're the star, you're a one-man show, or one-woman show, depending on who you are. Once you've got that worked out in your head, you just enjoy it. There's 24 hours in your episode. Gamify your life, so you can upgrade, so you can add on, and you can do lots of things that are bonus points. But at the end of the game, which is when you go to bed, you start again afresh the next day with only things that you plant in place. I think one of the key things is to live in the moment, not to worry about what goes on in the past. You can't change that. Not to worry about what goes on in the future, because you'll never be in the future. You'll only ever be here. So stuff that you plant and learn right now will make you better in the future. So just enjoy the good, the bad, and the ugly, because you never know when it might end. And I want to make sure that when it does finally end for me, I've got zero regrets. Every single day I had was the best experience I could ever have. I'm talking to you now, and I'm loving the conversation we're having, and I will never forget that we're doing this, and there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be than with you right now having this conversation. I love it. And the next time I'm doing something else, I will love that as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have no regrets. And if you're doing something that you hate, like a job you don't like, or being with people that you don't want to be with, either learn to deal with it and enjoy it, or don't. So imagine getting a splinter from one of these trees here. So you go put your hand on a tree and ow, got a splinter. Now, yes, it's annoying, but it gives you a pain and a feeling that when you pull it out, there's going to be a relief. So you pull it out, feel the pain, and decide I'm never going to do that again. But I've had it in my finger, and I do feel the pain, so I'm going to remember what that's like, but I'm not going to repeat it, because then I'd be an idiot. And I think that everything in life gives you those opportunities to grow and experience and end up maximizing it. So my daughter's 14, Maya, and she is now saying, my life is going fast, Dad. Things are happening. I can't believe it's going around to the new year again. I said, the reason that you end up with a life that's going quickly is because you do routine. You do the same thing. As you get older, when you get your normal job and you go to work every day, before you know it, it's Christmas again. So what you've got to do is step out your comfort zone, do things that challenge you, do things that make you step back and go, oh my goodness, what's happening here? And that way you live longer, you live a deeper life, you live a challenged life, but you love it, because you only do stuff you do that you love anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about stepping out of your comfort zone very soon. Because I think that's related with something that I want to ask you about.
Am I talking too much? You want me to make it shorter?
No,
sure?
Absolutely. Okay. You're doing fantastic. So I just wanted to ask you something else. You mentioned in the conversation that you can read the room, you can see questions, you can analyze. When did Dave/Max find out that you had this superpower?
Well, I'll make it very simple for you and anybody who's watching the videos at this moment in time. You probably realize that I'm a person of color. Now, the truth is, I'm mixed. My father was white, my mum is black. And so when you are different, you realize that you are never being accepted by everybody the way that everybody else is. You don't blend in, you don't seem like one of the crowd. They may be accepting you, but you're always going to be different. So you've got to make a decision. What impact am I going to let that have on me? And I didn't realize it until much later on, more recently. I realized that when I was very young, about 2 or 3 years old, I was playing with the kids in the street, and one of the mums invited everybody in to come and play and have lunch, and she'd stopped the gate on me. I was the only black kid in the street. She stopped the gate on me, and she wouldn't let me in. Now, this is in the 70s, and racism was more blatant and it was new effectively, even though it has got that much better now. So what I didn't realize was a knock-on effect that would have on me as a person. The knock-on effect it had on me as a person is I have always stopped trying to get onto the top table. I've done things to a really high level, but that bit when you've got to schmooze and ask for permission and step up there, I've always gone, no, that's it. I didn't realize it was led back all to that point. That was an imposter syndrome for me that involved finances and reaching up. Now, here's the thing. I know you're about to say something, so I'm going to jump in to say it very quickly. When you're not on the top table, that means that you are on the menu. And that's a huge impact because therefore you've got to ask yourself a different question. What if people turn me down? Now you're a sales expert, you're a wealth manager and a financial expert. When you pitch to somebody and say, I can really help you, and you put a lot of work in and they say, no, I'll leave it for a while, what do you say?
I would say, what is making you have this feeling to step back? What, I will assess the situation. I will be saying maybe like, what's on your mind? Why don't you want to move forward?
And they just say, I'm not interested. I'm going to leave it for a while. So what do you say?
I said, well, just tell me why.
I don't want to talk about it. So what do you say?
I said, okay, let's maybe revisit this later.
100%. You go, okay, next.
Yeah.
You don't dwell on it because sometimes it's a waste of your time and your energy. If they don't get it, take that energy and give it to somebody else. So that's one of the things I realized is really important. And so what I'm doing now is I ask. I'll ask, and I'm more than happy to get turned down. But what's happened in the last year or so by asking is I was presenting at the World Economic Forum in Davos, launching the African Hub. Why? Because I asked. And I'm now on the board of directors for special projects from the Vatican, because I spoke at the Vatican recently. How did that happen? I asked. If you don't ask, you don't get. And so what I'm finding in many cases is, you do get turned down. People have a better agenda than you, and they've got other people. That's fine, but there is enough for everybody. And when somebody says no, you just leave it. When somebody says yes, you go, right, let's have some of that. Because you've got yourself so you're really good at what you do, they will recognize it if they're up for it. And if they don't recognize it, they're idiots.
Yeah. And then just take a step back. When you were 2 or 3, the gate got closed. But there must have been a moment where you had a mic or you were in front of a crowd, maybe in your teenage years or maybe even before or maybe after, where you were talking to a crowd and you were just commanding the space. When was the first moment that you were like, hey, I think I'm really good at this, and that people were coming to you and say, hey, Dave?
I've always done it. There's no set points. I mean, there's pictures of me on stage at the age of 3, taking part in school plays and dominating. Because here's the thing, if you stand out like a sore thumb, you either become really good at fighting or you become really funny. So everyone likes you and wants to play with you. And so I became really good at getting on with people. And that extended to if I had a superpower, it would be my ability to work out the Wi-Fi code of any audience. So at the Dubai Rugby Sevens for 20 years, I would go out in front of effectively a hostile crowd of 50,000 people and about 200 million watching at home with a microphone, and I would work them and they'd do anything I asked them to do. Why? Because when you work it out, it's like an algorithm, you know exactly the right tone, the things to say, the impact and what they need and what they want to have. And so when you put that together, you become really effective. My entire life, I've been able to do that. And it's a learned skill, even though I didn't really think of it as a learned skill. But what it allowed me to do was have the ability to walk into any room and get what I want from that room, as long as I want something. But here's what the kicker is. I left the UK because nobody would give me an opportunity to extend my reach of working with people. At the BBC, I did my very best, but I still wasn't getting promoted. I went on national TV. I won Blind Date in front of 20 million people, and I didn't get a TV show or even a spin-off or any opportunity from there. So I left the UK and came to Dubai, which is, let's face it, the UAE is a country of dreams, and I've been here 30 years now. So I had a chance to do what I needed to do, and I did everything I needed to do, and then I stopped. I was on radio, I was a station manager, I was on TV, I did all the biggest gigs, worked with all the pop stars, film stars you could get your hands on, James Brown, Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, all of them, and then I stopped. I didn't realize why I stopped, because I was only proving to myself that I could do it. There's no other audience watching, nobody else around. I left the country to prove to myself I am worthy. And when I've proven to myself I am worthy, I just didn't need to want to do it anymore. I didn't have to step on stage and go, here I am, because then you're playing a different game, which is maintenance. To stay at the top in any kind of influential position, you have to keep doing it. And once I'd already done it, who am I proving it to? I don't need to prove to people I'm still that, because I already proved it once. But here's where it changed. Post-pandemic, there's a reset on the world.
Yes.
And what I wanted to do, and that's how we met, is work with incredible people to help them understand the lessons that I'd gone through about becoming a thought leader and seeing that by the world as being the very best that you can be. In order to do that, I had to then get back into the game. So imagine, you've seen the movie John Wick?
Yes.
You know when John Wick has his house blown up and his puppy gets killed?
Yes.
And you're thinking, what's he going to do about that? And he actually goes into the smouldering remains of his bedroom, and he digs up this big trapdoor, and it's just full of guns and ammunition and Kevlar and anything. So he goes on to take the mobsters. That's effectively what I'm going for right now. I'm just going, you know what? All the stuff I've done was only ever done to prove to me I'm okay. But we're in a world now where that's currency, where all the proof that you've done it is really important. If you put it front and center, people will sign off and say, yeah, this is a guy that we want. So I'm now on a mission to see, how far can I take this? Now, I'm blessed to have got, for over 30 years in Dubai, they just handed me the golden visa. I qualified for it just by the work I put in. So I'm thinking, I've got 10 years now to see how far I can take what I do. Mm-hmm. So everything from my new book, to my podcasts, to the shows I'm putting together, to the opportunities, my goals and my vision of where I want to be, is now almost part 2 of what I spent my first half of my life doing, which is to prove it to me. Now, to prove it to my clients and customers and the people that work with me, I want them to be able to see that they can do it as well. And the only way they can see it is if I prove that I am doing it again. So that's why I'm now doing all these big gigs. That's why I'm now out there. And that's why I'm really hungry to see where this takes me.
I want to talk now about the COVID period. You went into lockdown and you reinvented yourself. No more events. And then you came out with Industry Icon and this whole setup. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went through your head, why you did it, and where you at now, and what happened in that journey?
I'd be happy to share this, because I think it'd be really useful for anybody else who's trying to reinvent themselves to understand the processes I went through and to be able to apply them to themselves. Because if you're older and you're realizing that your job is not safe, or you're in an industry that AI is going to take away a large amount of what you did and you might not be relevant anymore, then you're going to have to reinvent. So there's a thing called the hedgehog concept, which is from a book by Jim Collins, which is Built to Last, and he's got another book called Good to Great. It's also called an ikigai, but there's 4 circles in an ikigai in Japan. What I do is the hedgehog, because it's easier to explain. So with the hedgehog, what happens is you've got 3 circles that are part of a Venn diagram that intertwine each other. First one is, what are you best in the world at doing?
Yeah.
Next one is, what is your passion that you love to do? And the third one is, what will people pay for? So once you've worked out how those intersect, in the center of them is what you do really, really well, and you should do that forever because people will pay for it. So the idea with the hedgehog concept is, a hedgehog or a porcupine is a pretty boring creature unless you're another porcupine. But what happens is, when nature gives them spikes on the outside, if they're in danger, they curl into a ball, nothing can get at them, because they're made perfectly to protect themselves, even though they're not really aggressive creatures. So what can you do that every single day you're brilliant at doing, but you'll find that you're just being you? So before the pandemic, I'd worked out mine. What am I brilliant at doing? Getting the Wi-Fi code of audiences and working a live audience. I'm brilliant at doing that. What do I love to do? I love to coach people and make them better than they were when they first met me, which again goes back to the imposter syndrome thing I talked about when I was younger. I want nobody to have to go through the same kind of experiences that I had.
Yeah.
And what will people pay for? Well, people will pay to be better speakers, but CEOs or decision makers who are going on big stages will pay you more, because they need to be great on stages, because their brand and their millions and their $billion deals depends on the impact they make every time they're in front of a camera. So that's what I was doing. I was doing big gigs and I was teaching people to be great speakers. But when the pandemic came along, all that disappeared. There were no big gigs. Nobody was worried about speaking, and I was left without proper work. So what I did is I went online, I was doing shows online, I got myself very good at doing the studio virtual shows, but then I realized that because I'd been a celebrity before, I mean, when I say celebrity, it's like in Dubai, a celebrity. So it's like famous in Vegas. Nobody outside of there knows who you are, but you're well known in that city. So because I'd experienced that, I realized that I had no interest in teaching people to be like a Kardashian or somebody who is a really well-known person, but it's really hard to work out what it is they do really well. I'd much prefer to work with people who are very good at what they do and just invisible and haven't really been able to be appreciated. So getting decision makers who are very good at what they do and getting them from being invisible to unforgettable. So that moves my circles slightly differently. What am I brilliant at doing? Teaching people to be able to then reach their audience. What do I love to do? Still get them better than they were. And who will pay for that? People who've got a very successful business, but they're invisible. So that's why I shifted to Industry Icon. It's not about teaching people to become celebrities, because I think that being a celebrity is not as good as it's cracked up to be. How do you want it so everything you do is being scrutinized and ripped to shreds, and people think that you're rubbish at it because they caught you one day doing something you didn't like? That's not what life is about. Some days we do things that we don't want the world to see. But if you are doing it about what you do for a living and not what you like as a person, then it means that everybody respects your impact, and that's what they will promote you for. And I think that business leaders are the new rock stars. The movie industry has fallen to bits. It's all streaming TV. The music industry, if you're not Taylor Swift, then you're just doing stuff for kids. Most people are listening to the retro stuff, be like from years ago. But if you can name as many pop stars or as many film stars as you can name business leaders, then you're doing really well. The biggest rock star on the planet is Elon Musk. Yeah. Now, whether you like him or don't like him, it doesn't matter. You've got to say, first of all, he's the richest man on the planet. And secondly, he is a genius. More Lex Luthor than Tony Stark, maybe. But what he does really well is he invents ways to go to Mars. He invents all kind of incredible electric cars, which are now a thing. They never used to be until he started pushing it. So does he fail because of who he is as a person? Well, no. I would still trust him, regardless of my thoughts of him, to get us to Mars, to get us to have household robots, because he's a genius and his team is around him. So therefore, the emotional aspect of who you are, which is what celebrity really is removed. It's what you can do for others that really matters. And people with proven track record of that, the Industry Icon program lets them become thought leaders in their niche. And there's enough for everybody. And what I'm talking about right now is probably the most important currency of the next 5 to 10 years.
I myself was seeing content from you a while back, and I was like, okay, I think this resonates to me. And then I signed up for the Industry Icon.
You're one of my Industry Icons. Yes. It's amazing. And look at what you've done. My goodness, we're in a beautiful place. You've got your own camera crew, and that's down to you proving that you had the skills, you had the ability. It was just a little bit of guidance and mentoring to put that there, do it this way and change it around. Yeah. But you always had it anyway. That's where I come in, because I've done this for years. I can do it very quickly.
No, you were fantastic, and you saw something, and what you're saying now is what I had in my mind. I'm like, okay, I have something to share, but how do I do that? How do I create an audience? And you had all these fantastic ideas, which I implemented, many of them, and what you're saying now is also something I didn't think about. Like, all the content you see now on LinkedIn and stuff like this on YouTube, it's all business leaders saying this, or an entrepreneur saying that. It's not anymore actors saying this and that. So, but I don't think there's a lot of enablers or people that can shift between those worlds, like somebody like you. You've been there, you know how it operates, the star power, you know how the business operates, and then bringing that together and saying, how can we mold that into something that works for today?
What I do is, I'm usually ahead of the curve. Yeah. And in this case, I'm still ahead of the curve, but there'll be more and more of me everywhere soon. Yeah. I was doing life coaching and hypnosis 20 years ago, stage hypnosis in Dubai 20 years ago. What's going to happen right now is an incredible shift, and watch for this. We've just seen Trump and his people taking over in America.
Yeah.
We're seeing a real shift in various places around the world where people are saying, I don't want the establishment. I want somebody who's going to disrupt it. They're not even thinking about whether that'll be better for them or not, because the guys have got no proven track record. They just say, I don't want it to be like that anymore. So they'll vote in celebrities, they'll vote in rock stars, TV stars, whoever it is, if it looks like they're kind of credible, they've known them for years, and that way they might do something differently. And government is changing. Now, this is incredible because we're going to go from what we've got, which is a capitalist society, which is based on, do what you can and so on, to a real Darwinian society, which means that only the fit will survive. There'll be no government looking after everybody, or less government looking after everybody. So it's going to be harder and harder for anybody who doesn't raise their game and learn how to brand themselves, run their own business, and do better in their job. If you were under a system before that you go to university, you get your degree and you do okay, and that's it for life, there's going to be a massive disruption. And what you're going to see is the decision makers that are going to be voted into office are going to be just household names who were there and went up against a boring politician and won because they were more popular. Now, the downside is they don't know what they're doing. 99% of them are going in there and they're grabbing elements like that and saying, this is mine. And they're just basically asset stripping countries, asset stripping governments, asset stripping staff. And as much as somebody like me doesn't like that, I do see it. And it's happening more, and it's just going to be more and more and more. There's a guy in the UK called Jeremy Clarkson, who's the host of Top Gear. In the UK, very popular guy, slightly right of centre when it comes to his politics, bit outspoken. Recently, part of his tax situation was he became a farmer and did a show all about running his farm. Very popular show. People liked it because he's a very funny presenter, and he's a loved guy up and down the country. But then he went on a protest about politics on behalf of farmers. And while he was filming his TV show, they said, go on stage and talk. So he went on stage and he talked. And people went, oh my goodness. If he wanted to run for Prime Minister of the UK, he would get it. No, he's not a politician. He's just a bit outspoken. But what we're seeing is a real shift in the wind, where if somebody wants it, and they've kind of put in the years, so they kind of won the popularity stakes, you can convert that into people who are disgruntled saying, I want some of that. I want that person to be in charge. Now, I'm not saying that Jeremy Clarkson would want it. Maybe he wouldn't, maybe he wouldn't. But that is the climate that we've got. So you becoming an industry icon, you positioning yourself as a great thought leader when it comes to finances, to wealth, to how to spend your money, where to invest, which you know better than most people, but you become a trusted figure when you do that on camera. When people choose who they're going to spend their money with, they're going to say, well, that guy's popular. It mustn't be by accident. He must be very good at what he does. Take my money. It's only a matter of time until that makes lots of micro-influencers becoming more like politicians, and politicians who know their system but have got into that playing a game, which is, I know what I'm doing, I'm never going to tell you the truth. People hate that. They want the transparency right now. Will there be a backlash? Yeah, there will be, but will the world go back to what it used to be? I don't think it ever will. I think we're sitting now at the most interesting time in the world's history, because you and I, if we really wanted to, and if we'd position ourselves the right way, could end up running countries, running businesses, doing all sorts of incredible stuff, just because we've got a brand and people trust us. We've got the authority, we've got trust, and we've got the credibility that we've done certain things, and people will say, you're the one for me. Really exciting times.
Yes, and to see this, and to be, a visionary, to see what is ahead, you have had that multiple times in your life. But how do you find it when you are a little bit ahead of the curve and you're putting all these things in place and you're like, crowd, come. And people are like, no, but I don't see it yet. And
it is so frustrating. Yeah. You have no idea. So here's the thing. 12 years ago, I said that podcasts are going to beat radio. 12 years ago. A very good friend of mine, Darius Sudi, who we talked about earlier, said, I remember when he said about that. He said, I remember when you said that movies and the cinema is dead. It's all going to go to streaming TV. And I said that when I saw 24 with Kiefer Sutherland in boxed CD sets that became compulsive TV, where you'd love watching this TV show, but you didn't have to wait 3 years for the next movie to come out. You could just watch it like that. And there's a shift when great producers, great actors started doing streaming TV. I produced a CD in the days of CDs called Now That's What I Call Hypnosis. And what I did was I put people in trance states, I played music and took them on a journey by storytelling and get them to experience different emotions to help them to reset where they were. Now, every single life coach does hypnosis and does positive visualization. I did this 15 years ago. I created a new genre that even now they're not doing exactly what I did, but we're doing enough for people to see it as the zeitgeist, the popular thing that everyone's seeing. So it's frustrating being ahead of the curve. So why do I find these things? Why am I ahead of most people? It's not because I'm a smart person. I'm not that smart. It's not because I'm a visionary, because I'm not that much of a visionary. What it is if you've got a Wi-Fi code to understand what makes an audience like you, that goes into overdrive all the time. That goes deep diving, it's spreading its roots everywhere. And when you see something, you can analyze exactly what's going to happen next. So right now, we're in this beautiful Safa Park. There's kids playing football over there. There's kids playing over here. And if I was to say, right, let's put on an event here. We've got trees around us and a path here. Could you do a family fun day? Yes, instantly I'm looking about where we put stuff, where we'd have the activities. It's nice in the shade, so the catering could be here. Why would people want to come? What theme would you give to it? My brain works into that very easily. So I can work out very quickly what entertainment area would fit in to what people would want to see and what would want to do. Now that's great for entertainment, but what happens now is business and politics have crossed over into entertainment. Entertainers like Donald Trump are now becoming the business leaders of the world. So that becomes a very potent skill. I watched what was happening with, for instance, I don't like to talk about politics because I don't like to show my side, but if you're a black guy who grew up in the UK, it's pretty clear where you vote and what you believe in. But when I was watching the recent elections in America, I was watching the establishment saying, we're the establishment, we're here for you, and other people saying, burn it all down. And the burn it all down will win. And you can't reset it. You can't put it back in its hole once you've destroyed the hole. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a position where we have to look at who we are, who we can help if you want to help, or who you can dominate if you want to dominate, and start building stuff in that direction. Because I'm ahead of the curve of these conversations, but this will be the norm in the next 5 to 10 years, guaranteed. Every country will have a celebrity running it. And it won't be a politician who becomes famous. They're too boring. It'll be somebody who we all love and we all like. That's why we voted him in. Now, depending on the politics, it's really strange, because what happens is if you're an influencer, you tend to be slightly right-wing with your politics. Why? Because in the influencer world, money is followers. So the more followers you have, the more you believe you want to protect your followers and your money, which means that you lean into not giving it out to everybody. I'm not going to give my followers to everybody. I'm going to keep my followers here and monetize it. So that's a real swing of the politics worldwide. Will it swing back? Yeah, it will do. You'll see that happen in many countries. In the UK, it swung back from Boris Johnson to Keith Starmer. You'll see it happen in many places, but the damage and the changes will be done. Yeah. Especially when you look at the children growing up and observing what's happening, because they won't snap back. The establishment might, but they're taking life lessons about where I need to be. And it's a really exciting time. It's a really disruptive time. And as long as nobody presses that red button, it's a really cool time for us.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And let's go for a little walk further. So when you were saying,
are my answers too long, by the way?
No, you're giving stars there, because I think the stuff you're saying, specifically when it comes to how you're seeing things and where you see that we are going, I think that there's a profound moment that we are in, if I listen to you, and that's that we are at a pivotal point where people are saying, oh, what's going on? Oh, this is an incident. This is a one-off. But you are seeing a trend.
100%.
And you're saying it's not a one-off, guys. Wake up. We are going here, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. This is the change. You better change your setup and your business and everything around you to be prepared for it, or you're just going to be caught off guard all the time. So how do you play into this? How can people come to Dave and say, I need your support because my business, or I am not seeing it, or I cannot make this shift. I need you to help me with the shift.
Well, I'm a mentor. Ultimately, my most important message is to learn to jump and grow wings on the way down. And that means helping people to see who they are and to step up their game. So I work with people all over the world and I help them to do it. They just need to either, if they can afford my services, contact me. I'll help you where I can. If you can't afford my services, contact me anyway, and I'll point you at some of the things I've done on video, or some of the programs I've got, or my new book, The Thought Leaders Playbook, which takes everybody from A to Z on exactly what they have to do to create your celebrity, to get your mindset in the right way. There's 6 steps that take you from invisibility to profitability, and that way you become more visible. And it is a playbook. It is a simple system, but when you use it, it works, and it adapts to who you are.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what industry you are, whether you're making sandwiches, or whether you're looking after sheep, or whether you're a tech genius, or whether you're a singer, you can apply it in a way that people will turn around and say, that's what I need. Because what I'm finding is with AI, it's pushing people to fall back on their more human skills, because the things that we learned at school can be done by an algorithm. Learning to be a doctor, that can be done by an algorithm. Learning to be an accountant, that can be done by an algorithm. Even in financial world, you are much faster when you put it into a system. It tells you what people are going to get as returns on investments without calculating on a bit of paper. So therefore, why would you make more money? Because your humanity matters. Your ability to show your brand works. That you've got great clients, you've got proof that you've done it for a very long time, and you're a lovely guy, and you're easy to work with and easy to talk to, and you'll never laugh at the client. You'll only ever help them. And what's in it for them? They'll get what they need much faster by going through you than they would do if they tried to work it out on their own. People are impatient. They don't like learning curves. They want instant gratification. That's why when you sit there watching anybody on TikTok, they go skim, 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 skim.
Yeah.
The videos are about 20 seconds long, and then great nuggets are shared and gone in no time at all. So for me, what I want them to do is go to speakonstage.com and connect with me through there. Get onto my socials, especially LinkedIn, and see the material that I'm doing. Join my WhatsApp group. Join my mailing list. Watch my videos on YouTube. Do whatever gets you to move forward faster. You don't have to work with me. I'd love you to be able to work better with yourself, because school doesn't tell us this stuff. University doesn't tell us this stuff. I was in a university conference for all the education board of the country, of a region, a couple of years ago. And there was a guy called Sir Lord Sebastian Coe, who's a very famous athlete, who's head of the World Athletics Corporation, who is a keynote speaker. So he went on stage, and the first thing he said is the education system was broken 40 years ago, and it's just as broken now. And you can imagine all the faces dropped of everybody.
Yeah.
They just go, oh, how can you say that? And he backed it up by saying, it's not relevant what you're teaching people. You're just taking their money. The world has shifted. And this is backed up by another speaker who went on and said that before the pandemic, then you had a number of different degrees that are available for jobs. But the difference in the job market has shifted 38%. But the difference in the degrees available has shifted 5%. So therefore, there's 33%, and that was going back about a year or so with this conference, 33% of the jobs available in the market have got no actual degree.
12 seconds later.
So we took a short break, Dave. Let's continue to talk about education, because you were saying something very important about that.
Yeah, the biggest challenge of education is it doesn't fit into what we need nowadays. The education system that we enjoy is like 200 years old. It was developed to get people out of the fields into factories. So you got and recruited children of a certain age, taught them to do certain skills, and that would mean that they're going to be very good factory workers. But very few people have a job for life. Most people have a job for a couple of years only, and then they've got to reinvent themselves to do something else. And so the education system is still set up to be the same way. You're literally looking at an education system that's pumping people out for at least 40% of the jobs that you can do on the market. There's no degree for it. So why would you do a degree for that? So a very dear friend of mine, Jeff Smith, who's known as a KPI guy, he's one of the most respected people in the automobile industry. He's created a series of degrees for the automobile industry that just don't exist. So previously, if you wanted to work in the car industry, you had to get an MBA to show you could get a degree and then just work your way up. Now you can be qualified, which in a place like Dubai means you can buy your own house, you can have your own car, you can do all sorts of things with a qualification that's suited for the career that you really want to have. There's a gap in so many industries. And so I really believe that what you should be doing, if you've got a young person in your family, like I've got a teenage daughter, Maya, is teach her how to, first of all, look after her own mind and make decisions that are right for her, then learn to earn and learn to learn. Because those skills are going to be so essential. Doesn't matter what you do. There's no guarantee that the job market will look anything like it does right now. All the time there's new jobs coming across. We haven't even worked out the new jobs as a direct result of AI, because there's a whole industry coming in from prompt engineers to people who reskill others through AI that we don't even know what those jobs are. There's going to be such a change, but what you do need to know is what will people pay for and how will I learn those skills? That's not really being taught so much now. People are just being taught, for instance, being taught history at school. Why are you being taught history? You can Google it or ChatGPT it and it'll all show up, all the facts, all the figures, all the numbers. Why do you need to know? You need to be able to put history in context. That's different. But you get caught out for whether you can talk about it or not. So I think right now, the way that you need to look is, where do I need to be? Who are the people that I need to help? And what do they need from me? And you focus on that. If you do that right and you teach your next generation to be able to do that, they'll always have a job, they'll always have work, they'll always have a reason to do what they do, because there'll always be people who want it and will pay for it.
That makes a lot of sense. And you gave me this. Look at this, guys. The new book came out from Dave. The title is The Thought Leaders Playbook, your 6-step roadmap to visibility, credibility, and profitability. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to make this book, what this book is about, and how did you feel now this is available?
Thank you so much for sharing it. I'm so excited. This is the Industry Icon program that you've been on and experienced, but brought in so people can take the steps. And the steps are very simple. The 6 steps are, first of all, you start off by realizing that I am better than this, but I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Then you start looking at other people and saying, well, they seem to be doing all right. Why can't I just be like them, but my own version of them? And then once you've worked out what that is, you start driving in a certain direction. You say, right, imagine packing a car with all the things I'm really good at. I'm going to head off in a direction where I need to be. So that's number 3, you're driving, but then you realize later on, actually, I'm driving really well, but I'm going in the wrong direction. My people are over there, not here. So therefore, you change where you're going and you redirect where you're heading in this direction. And as you're heading there, you turn around and say, actually, I don't need a car full of all this stuff. The people I want to serve don't need all these extra bits. I thought that was a good idea. I'll get rid of them. So you pull ultra focus, you create a community, you've got really good products, and you head off. So the 6th point, the 6th step of the roadmap is all about owning your industry. So your name becomes a verb. So when people turn around and say, I want to be able to sort out my finances, I need to do a Simon Snelder on it, it means I need to get in a nice guy who knows this stuff, won't mess about, has got a proven track record of wealth creation, and will also be able to share with you what you need to do in a very short amount of time and be with you for the duration. That's not what everybody in wealth management can do, but when your name becomes a verb, then people know exactly what to expect. So when somebody says we need to do a Dave Crane on this event, it means getting a host who's funny, knows his stuff, will guarantee the event works really well, is so easy to work with, and they can do it in a short amount of time just by sharing with him what the parameters are and the objectives are. So you need to do whatever you are to go through those 6 steps, so then you own the industry, or you own a chunk of your industry. Then you're an industry icon. So what this book does is it goes through every single stage: how to create an audience, how to get people to follow you, how to understand who you really are, to work out your signature message. Mine is jump and grow wings on the way down. Yours is Simon Says. Simon says do this, and that's why you do it. For every single person, when you work out what they are, then you start putting that into everything. So for instance, if you look at my history from coming to Dubai to the things I've done in my career, every stage I basically learned to jump and grow wings on the way down, taking calculated risks. And that's what I share with everybody. With you, it's the same thing. You've learned what doesn't work, you learn what does work, just listen to what Simon says. everybody has a right to find out what their signature message is. And from taking that, discovering themselves, working out the steps they need to take, all the way up to monetizing it, and you can monetize it all the way through. Because what happens very quickly is when you create this brand and you start speaking on stages and you create a book and you do a podcast and you start having retreats that people can go on and you start creating a community that pays you a membership and you start white labeling stuff that other people are following, at every stage of that it's monetizable. And within a very short amount of time, you lift yourself above all the competition who are not competition anymore. You're on your own in the wilderness with everyone looking up and saying, wow. Now the difference between that and where you were before is when we're moving into a place politically and around the world where it's the Darwinian theory of the most adaptable will survive. Well, if you understand that the formula for being paid is, first of all, the impact of a job that you do and how cheaply you can be replaced by somebody else. That's it. It's not whether people like you or love, none of that stuff. So if you can't be replaced by anybody because you're seen as a thought leader, people will pay you whatever it takes to get you, because even though there's other people that are cheaper, even though there's other people that can maybe do what you do, yeah, but they're not you. They might be cheaper, I mean, do what you do, but I want you because I know exactly what I'm going to get because I've followed you and I've seen your brand. They might be much better, but they're invisible, so I don't trust them. Yeah. So it's about positioning yourself to be at that level where for life you are seen as the very best at what you can be. And that's what the Thought Leaders Playbook does.
I love it. And for the people that are listening, please get a copy of this one, because I know Dave, I know the quality he gives. And before I end, he also gave me his business card. Look at this, guys. Isn't this the coolest business card ever? With a little story about him.
In fact, the Life Designer's Companion, I'll take the book off you.
Yeah.
The Life Designer's Companion that you got there is probably the precursor of what this book turned out to be. So in there, you've got when I was doing hypnosis and audios to help people to visualize who they are. I was going on tours around the world with Visa, MasterCard, and many other banks, hypnotizing rooms full of people to get them to positively visualize what they needed to have in the future. And that was 15 years ago, long before any life coaches or business coaches are doing it as standard now. So what this is a template for everybody to raise their game. Now, the thing is, not everybody's going to raise their game. Even people watching this, some people say, I've got to get that book. Some people go, oh, I'll be okay. You won't be okay, but you'll only be as okay as everybody else. Because here's the thing, the Titanic, when it went down, the people who got into the lifeboats were the ones that survived at the end of the day. You can turn around and say, oh no, somebody's coming to rescue us. I don't think anybody is coming to rescue us. What we get out of life is what we put in. And supposing it's not as dramatic and horrible and scary as some people think, I want to get to the end of my days knowing I gave it my best shot. Anything short of that, why are we here? If you're coasting through and just enjoying it and so on, then something comes along and knocks your legs away and you can't get back up and you've got your family to look after, why would you leave yourself open to that? Staying outside of your comfort zone is a really comfortable place to be, because you never know what's coming, and that's what makes us live longer, and that's what means that when it comes to the end of our days, we know we've had a life worth living.
I agree. And this is a beautiful way to end our conversation. For the people watching, you can either buy this book or go to his website, Industry Icon. You can also
speakonstage.com
and speak on stage. Go to LinkedIn. You can, if you put all these words there or Google this, you can find Dave and you can see his track record. There's so much out there. You can really just Google him or find him on speakonstage.com or his LinkedIn page, or just buy his book.
Amazon. They get this on Amazon.
On Amazon. Dave, thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
It was so nice talking with you.
You know, the crazy thing is, and people won't appreciate that, this is the first time we've met in person, because everything we've done has been online. That's a change in the world and the way it is. Yeah. I didn't realize you were so tall. Oh, that was so short, but I'm glad for it.
Well, it's a rising of the ground.
Okay, I'll go up here and see we look normal again.
Yes.
There you go. Perfect. Let's do the whole interview again from this level.
Yes. Thank you again, Dave.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening.